Is this on? All right. Here we go.
All right.
So my name is Vanessa Filiberti Bautista. I'm Corporate Vice President at Microsoft. I run the M365 Services Platform team, basically the cloud for Office and Windows. But today, it's not about me. It's about these fabulous panelists, and I'm just going to let them introduce themselves. But what I hope to have today is a conversation around leadership. And these are leaders who are just the top notch in their field, in their industry, lots of experience to build upon. So we're just going to have a discussion. I have a couple prepared. I'm going to move my chair so I can see your faces. I have a couple prepared questions, but then we're going to open it up to the audience. Okay, so audience online, audience in the room. Hopefully we'll have a conversation and get to learn something new today. Ready?
We are.
All right, so I like to do a fun icebreaker as part of the introduction. So please go ahead and introduce yourself. And Jose Miguel, we're going to start with you, okay?
Perfect.
So introduce yourself and also answer the question, what do you take to a potluck?
Well, that's a good question.
Because food, right? We like food,
Yes,
right?
Let me tell you, what I will do is I think I will bring the wine. And it depends. And sometimes will be something more like sparkling, maybe a cava. Sometimes an Albarino, that is a fantastic white wine. Or if they are really, really good friends, I think that something from Ribera. And you can say I'm from Spain. So I will always bring Spanish wines. I have to. Okay? Hello to my colleagues that are also from Spain and have Spanish roots. Jose Miguel Calderón Carpio, Josemi for short. All the time is telling my name. And I work for Johnson & Johnson Pharmaceuticals. Basically, what Johnson & Johnson Pharmaceutical does is to envision a world without disease. And our objective is to make that happen. In Janssen, that is the part of Johnson & Johnson Pharmaceuticals, basically has three organizations. One is R&D. We create very, very innovative stuff, the molecules, the new things. There is a sales organization that is basically every single region, and you need something in between that is we call global strategy. I'm the head of technology for global strategy. Basically, it means that we run medical affairs, data science, precision medicine, digital healthcare, medicine and therapeutics, and access, and value, and a few other things that are really, really exciting for all the therapeutic areas. Before, I was the CIO for Johnson & Johnson Pharmaceuticals in Latin America for a few years.
Awesome, thank you. Marcela.
Hi, can you hear? Yeah, everyone can hear me. So before I start, I have to say anything I say represents my own opinion and not the opinions of the Biden-Harris administration. Marcela Alava, currently work for the White House or the Executive Office of the President, which if you can imagine, because a lot of people have asked me, what is that like? And if you can just imagine like a university campus, that's what the White House is like. A lot of different divisions. There's a lot of shared services, right? There's restaurants, there's people coming in and out of campus, HR, finance, a lot of other things. So my position is Deputy Director of White House Information Technology. This is my first time in federal service. I've been here for about a year and a half. Prior to that, I was a CIO at a lot of different companies, the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, also for Sony Pictures Entertainment. The Home Entertainment Division was a CIO there for a really long time. And then most recently at a smaller construction landscape company in Los Angeles, originally from there. And first time on the East Coast, really love the weather, all of that stuff. I haven't been invited to a lot of potlucks recently, but but when I do cook, I grew up in a restaurant family, so I think I'm pretty well versed on the food. But what I do is everything that I bring to the table, I always add sensation. So I bring my chicken sensation, my tostada sensation, and I just add sensation to everything. My meatball sensation, mushroom sensation, so that's what I do.
Sensational.
Well, good morning, everyone, people here in the room, as well as the people watching us online. My name is Raul Aldre. I work at Citibank. I'm the head of digital channels and ecosystems. Basically, just to get an idea of what we do, we run basically the website, mobile applications, so the way the consumers interact with their financial services. Prior to joining Citibank about a year and a half ago, I was a chief product officer of a company called MediaKind, global tech company. It's actually interesting because Alvaro was talking about that project that they did with the NBA. My company actually partnered with Microsoft and the NBA building up that application as well. So a lot of the encoding, packaging, a lot of the latency-related issues, technology that we were providing at the time. I have also worked in telecommunications for over 16 years. So all in all, probably over 20 years doing product design and development. I'm originally from Venezuela, and I came to the States about 25 years ago. Way to go. I'm very proud of that. My passion is building products and applications, so we'll get to talk a little bit more about how we go about it. In terms of the potluck, I'm already getting hungry, by the way. I had a light breakfast. But I would say to pair up with the wine and some of the sensational dishes that we hear here, I would say I would bring beef empanadas.
Ooh, nice.
That is fantastic. So, hi everyone. My name is Julissa Hermosen. I'm Director of Partner Ecosystem Development at Salesforce. And what my team does is we're responsible for ensuring that our over 4,000 SI partners globally have the capacity and the capability and the technical expertise to deliver on our customers' implementation and digital transformation demands. So I think this conversation is really timely around talent as well as leadership. And I am Dominican American. I was born in Santiago. To all of my Dominican family and friends out there. And what I would take to a potluck, which, we've got Thanksgiving in just a couple of weeks, and I've been thinking about this. I'm probably hosting, maybe, we'll see, is I'll bring a Dominican pastelón. Oh. Absolutely. So, yes, I'll bring that. And for sure, we'll have some fantastic wine from Spain as well. So, nice to meet you all. Briefly, background, this year I actually celebrate 25 years in the tech industry. And just so grateful for this industry. Quite frankly, it has never let me down. So I'm just truly grateful for that.
Awesome. This is exciting. The leaders here really represent a breadth of what the tech industry is, and plus you can see some of the interconnections and how we have dependencies and common experiences. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. But first, Marlene, we're going to start with you. And Marcella. Hello, Marcella. It's like I got it wrong. We're going to start with you, and we're going to talk about how it is, especially being in the White House. I imagine the pressure there is, and all of the positions you've been in before. How do you think about making decisions strategically? And when you have the breadth and the amount of responsibility that we have as leaders, thinking about it strategically while also knowing what the impact of those decisions may be.
Yeah, I think one thing I didn't mention in my in the start is that I heard this the other day. Someone said that they were a marketing technical person, and so they called themselves Marky Tech. And so I'm a functional technical person, so I am funky tech, but I consider myself to be super functional. I actually grew up on the business side, really looking at how businesses work, operate, how they make money. And so I've really taken that, I think, everywhere. I take that to the White House now. It's a different kind of business, right? The monetization there is really, we're not making money, really. We're serving the public. So we need to ensure that everyone that's generating policy, that's coming to work, that's managing budgets, that's really ensuring that the people who make all of the decisions for us on the countryside have the tools and the technologies that they need, right? And it's also the House of the People. So being able to bring people onto campus. So a lot of those applications are really business applications, right? They're things that other organizations use, whether it's Salesforce, Microsoft, right? We have all the things that anybody else would use. And we also have custom developed applications. So I really kind of start by looking at the organization, right? What are the strategies of the organization? If there isn't any, start by developing one, right? Developing a vision for the organization. I think someone said that they're an enterprise architect. Again, bringing in kind of that skill set to the table as well and looking at all of the applications. Where do we need to digitize? Where do we need to modernize? Where do we need to rationalize our portfolio? And I kind of just do that and also bring some formality to it. I've leveraged I just heard this recently that's called a SOAP. I didn't know what it was. The strategy on a page, but I use the OGSM model, right? So objectives, strategies, goals, and measures, and that's what I do. Set the vision for the organization, identify what our current capabilities are, figure out what do we need to close those, whether it's skill set gaps or functional gaps or business gaps, operational gaps, and then start executing on that strategy, ensuring I have the right resources in place to do that. Again, learning a little bit of how to procure things. And I think someone mentioned change management, right? There's a lot of military in where I work. It's a completely different culture. So I've gotten to learn how to work in a very, very hierarchical organization where I was very used to working in a cross-functional organization, right, where you can work with teams and let people know, hey, here's the leader, you need to do what this leader says. And in a military organization, no, I have to make sure that you kind of escalate things. So there's kind of the cultural differences, but you adapt, right? You adapt to the career staff, to the detailees that come in and out, and the political appointees. And so just imagine every 4 years, your entire leadership executive team switches out, right? So there's very difficult to maintain a strategic outlook year over year over year. And even within administrations, leaders change out. So my objective is really to create a sustainable approach to how technology is managed and delivered that transcends administrations.
Julissa, how about you? How do you approach this?
It's a good question. We are really at an inflection point. So today we have we'll finish this fiscal year with over 200,000 credentialed individuals in our partner ecosystem worldwide. And so it took us 22 years to get to 200,000 credentialed individuals, right? So people, consultants who have decided to build their career on the Salesforce platform, working with our partner ecosystem, partners who are in this room, Accenture, PwC, KPMG, from our largest partners to our smaller boutique partners. And yet, we are in this path of growth because of customer demand. Within the next 4 to 5 years, we want to grow that to 500,000 credentialed individuals. So that is an inflection point for us. And then when we mirror that with the statistics around Latinx talent, and we heard about that yesterday, 4% of the overall Latin talent is in, 7% is in the tech industry, our industry. We probably have the 7% right here in this conference, right? We shout out to the people online as well. That's a joke, we don't, but 7% of the available talent is in our industry, right? And of that, 4% in leadership. Of that, we're a fraction of a fraction, 2% women in leadership, right? The opportunity is there. So we've got this incredible opportunity for growth to take our current partners, right, and credentialed individuals and continue to grow their expertise from a technical standpoint so that they're delivering innovation. But also, we need an influx of new talent within our partner ecosystem. And by the way, many of those will not actually join partners. They will create their own technical consulting organization. Latina women are the fastest growing business owners, creators, right? So there's an opportunity here to bring in what the business needs from a talent perspective to what our community needs, and bridging that gap, very similar to the conversation that Omar had this morning. And we at Salesforce have the credentials, we have the gamification, we've got the technology, and quite frankly, a lot of those are free online available today. So when you ask about, how we think about prioritizing, we look at the data, we look at what we need, and what we need to continue this skyrocket of growth that Salesforce is having. And then if you ask me, what are the gaps? So this is what my team does. We look at what are the gaps in the market, what 5 years out our customers are demanding and asking for. And it is truly innovation. It is truly around multi-cloud development, multi-cloud implementations, and that's what my team is delivering. And, someone made the comment, I think it was Alvaro, about doing more with less. I've spent 14 years at Microsoft. I get it. I remember the tagline, do more with less, for sure. And this is exactly what we need to do, right? This is what our customers are demanding us as well. Even more innovation, but with that sense in mind. So we've got to prioritize. We cannot do everything well. So we look at where is the talent coming from to have that influx of talent within the ecosystem, but also where are the gaps that we're addressing? And quite frankly, a lot of it is in our industry areas. And I think I'm going too long. I think I'll stop, but I'll just stay there. We look at the data and we make some key priorities and decisions.
You're not passionate about this topic
I
at
just
all,
think about this
are you?
all the time, right? This is like what's on my mind. That and Thanksgiving.
Potluck, yes. Pernil is one of my favorite. Pastelón is my favorite. So you have to have a plan, but identify where the opportunity, ensure that you have the talent that matches all that together, and thinking about that's how you drive your decisions. But to think about the impact, and thinking about the impact that you've had on you in your career, and the thing that you're most proud of. Raul, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I've been blessed that, through the last 20 plus years of my career, I always worked in Fortune 500 companies. Working in product design and development, you typically have to think about consumers a whole lot. Actually, you have to wake up every morning thinking about how consumers are getting impacted. At Citi, we work in financial services across our various digital platforms. We impact over 70 million customers every day. When you talk about financials, typically it's a high tension moment. A lot of people, when they're coming to your applications or things like that, you're making a payment, you want to make sure things are going properly. When you're checking your statements and your balances and you have a payment due, you want to make sure that you have the right information at the right time. So how do you create delightful moments that are also meaningful, right? Like, how do you bring people to your applications? You serve them correctly. They can accomplish the task at hand. And then you get out of the way. Or if they're coming into your applications to learn more about financial products and get educated and expand kind of possibilities or continue with their financial needs based on where they're sitting in their life journey, then you are actually providing the options to educate them and get them introduced to some of these products as well. We also tend to think always about the broad customer range. So not all customers look alike. You can imagine it's not the same thing, when you're serving a Gen Z, somebody kind of getting acclimated on financial services and the financial needs that they might have, which they're super comfortable doing peer-to-peer payments and things with wallets and whatnot, versus an elderly customer potentially kind of coming and having to do their financial transactions that historically they have been going to a branch and having to perform their daily tasks, and now you're trying to digitize some of that transaction. So how do you educate that footprint and kind of remove the barriers and the anxiety that comes from, wow, I'm going to be doing now financial transaction online for somebody that hasn't been used to do that. Think also about people with disabilities, right? That they come to our digital channels and they struggle. I mean, we need to make sure that we're solving for their needs as well every single day. So it's a little bit about that relentless behavior of thinking about your broad customer base, and then the life journey that each one of these customers are typically engaged in your products with. I worked in telecommunications for many years, and these are highly regulated industries. And you can imagine, when you have somebody making a critical call on your cell phone because they have a family emergency or something like that. So the way that you build products with reliability and you harden them for, making sure that actually the products are performing at the right standards, it's something paramount when you're building products. So to answer your question, what am I every day, how do I think about it? I think you wake up every morning and think about how am I impacting the end consumers. Even if you're in a B2B business, ultimately your enterprise customers are also going to have consumers at the end of the day, right? There is always a consumer behind the scenes. So if you start with the consumer in mind, you trace it all the way back, I think you're going to be better off as a product manager or a product executive.
Yeah, at Microsoft, we call it being customer obsessed. If we have the solution that really serves the needs, and then we win. Jose Miguel, how about you?
Well, when you recall your life, there are so many moments. So what I will do is I will go 10 and 20 years before now, and I will give some real things that happened to me that I think are interesting. So let's go back to 2003. 2003, I was working for Microsoft. I think everyone has been working for Microsoft at some point.
I'm the last person standing, just for the record here.
So I was working for Microsoft at that time. I was still in Spain, and I was running the healthcare business. So I realized that we have a problem that Alvaro mentioned. That is where we are having the discussion at that time on features. We are having the discussion on the feature, and that was the wrong discussion. Something that I realized is that in the national healthcare, we have a massive opportunity if we were able to really work together. In Spain, every state, every region have all the competencies for healthcare, so there was no connection, very, very little the automation. So we were in a very, very bad shape. So we put together like a prototype and went to the CIO for the Minister of Health, Jesus, a very good friend for many, many years, and convinced him to drive with us to every single region with our technology and our competitors' technology with both. In the car, in his car. So we were visiting every single region and showing them what happens if we start having the conversation of working together. What is the benefit for the patient? Actually, a conversation started. A few things are starting to happen, and we have so much better, so much more accessible healthcare because of the small piece of technology that was able to put things together. And if you are pro-Microsoft, you are against Microsoft, is not the problem. The problem is that you really need to be in that conversation. So everyone was in that conversation. Actually, more than half that very year moved their staff to Microsoft because they saw that it was working, and some of them didn't because of some political reasons, honestly. But they were in that conversation, so I think that was a big thing for us. Actually, for the first time, Microsoft got a Spanish Society for Healthcare award that year that I was getting the award because we have a different kind of contribution, and I really, really like to have that conversation. Okay. 2013. 2013, I was in the States as running public sector for Microsoft, and I realized that most of my customers were Mexico and Brazil, and later Argentina, but smaller Central America, mostly smaller countries. They were like really, really small, too small, and I said, what can I do in order to change this? And I realized that basically the problem is that we were not connecting in the right way. But that was not the conversation that I needed. So the plan was, how can we change that conversation? So we started trying to understand from a political standpoint what was more important for them. And we try to connect every one of these capabilities that they need to bring to the country to capabilities of their own people, the citizens, the companies, and to see how technology could enable those capabilities. And was way easier than we thought. We really found a new way of having a conversation. We created what we call a national agenda, something was called Government Leaders Forum. So we put together a new approach to work with governments, to work with even smaller governments that instead of big organizations. And it makes a difference. We start having conversations with the presidents of the country, with every single secretary of our ministry, and the regional leaders of the country. And I mean, we really could make a big impact. Actually, that year also I have a Diamond Award in Microsoft. Do you remember those awards? Wow. So it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoy to really have an impact. And I think that next time is going to be, let me move to 2023, and I think it's something that we need to do together. I mean, this is my first high tech, and I'm really excited of what we can do together as a team. So I think the next big moment is going to be all of us in 2023 exceeding all of our objectives and making this happen for real. I need all of you, also the ones that are online.
Okay, so I knew this was going to happen. I told you guys when we prepped, we were going to run out of time. So I'm going to call an audible, and I'm just going to combine the last two questions into one, and then, but all of you are going to answer it. And then I really want to make sure we have time for questions from the audience here in person and online. So get those ready. So this is about, as a leader, as technologists, one of our biggest contributions is around innovation, changing the world, having that impact. So, but to do so, you have to take risks. You have to get uncomfortable. So, Marcela, what is your approach in taking risk as a leader, and how, like, what's your advice to the audience?
Yeah, I think innovation is contextual, right? It depends on the company that you're working for and what they are willing to accept in terms of risk. So I do the kind of the three hop of the companies as well. So I had at Sony, it was really working with other studios, figuring out as we were, it's a kind of a mixed crowd. So DVDs, VHS cassettes, how we were moving from, kind of the physical distribution into digital distribution, right? And so all of the different studios were transacting with Apple and Netflix in a very unique and different way, right? So a couple of us CIOs got together and said, how do we help create common standards, right? How do we create innovation for this brand new business model, right, that we were entering into, and how do we do it as technologists, knowing that our studios were very risk averse in terms of sharing anything that was secret in terms of, right, their marketing plans, their release slates and all of this other stuff. And we said, okay, here's table stakes. We don't talk about sales and marketing, release schedules, none of that, right? That's golden. That stays within each studio's four walls. And then we as technologists come up with common standards. When I went to HSF, it was all about how do you connect with parents, students, and donors, and everyone at scale and at mass. And I love that Alpha and High Tech are doing that partnership. It just excites me, and I want to get involved too. So I'm going to sign up to do whatever you guys want me to do, because I can't raise money, but I can offer my time, right? So, but there it was also, how do you connect with students and everyone at scale? So it brought me in and again created that vision. Great partnership. CEO there was very willing to take a lot of risks. We got some great sponsorships to fund the initiatives there, and so again proceeded with that. Monarch, it was a private equity-backed company, 6 different unique companies. My objective there was to bring them into one common platform, getting the company ready to sell. 12X, which I didn't reap the benefits because I had left. And so anyway, I am here, but I'm doing the Lord's work. But that was a partnership with the executive team. I told them, I am not going to take this job and unify these 6 companies into one unless the executive team is going to be my partner. Because the organizational change management that's required, right, to change 6 different acquisitions into one common financial system that then centralized all of finance, centralized all of HR, had some common business processes. That was going to be a complete revolution. And how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to do it together. So we were willing to take that risk on. The current company that I'm working for, very risk averse, right? And so there it was really developing the framework of how do we make decisions on innovation, because we have to innovate. We have to. There's no other way. We need to stay, and we're not competitive, but we need to stay up to speed with what's happening. And as we have new people coming into the organization, they demand things like collaborative chatting, right? Like Slack and those kinds of tools, right? And so we need to ensure that we're taking those calculated risks that protect our reputation. We look at security, where the development is actually happening. Is it happening, in the United States or offshore. There's records risks that are completely unique to this environment that I had never heard of before, because no other company really cared about records the way that our government cares about records. So again, very risk averse. So you just have to, again, alter the innovation approach based on the risk tolerance.
Anyone want to add to that?
You go next. Just kind of representing the side of a financial institution also tends to be really risk adverse. And quite honestly, innovation and risk, they typically belong to the same sentence, right? They go hand in hand. I've been blessed to have the opportunity to work on a lot of patents and innovation. I have 34 patents under my name. But now working in a financial institution, how do you balance out risk in that context, right? The way we think about it is, first of all, we identify the risk as part of your product design process, right? Like, what are all the things that can go wrong? Then how do you wrap it around with the right controls that you can measure and monitor the risk and then automate these controls? So we call it, these are embedded controls in your product design. And you want to automate all these different aspects of your journey. So you cannot remove the human variable here, right? I mean, when you have people doing checks and doing things like that, there is always, a little bit of room for the hands off, when things can go wrong because one person interprets the data one way versus the other way. So how you design your products, your journeys, your transactions, the output for every API call or whatever the system function that you're doing in a way that it has the right controls around that to manage and mitigate the risk.
Awesome. Jose Miguel, Julissa, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I would like to add something. If politics or banking is risk adverse, imagine healthcare. Pharma. It's really risk adverse. But I think that any compass, in order to take a decision, because risk is about decisions, every company needs to have a compass. And in the case of my company, the compass is called the Credo. It has been the same document with small variations for more than 75 years. So we know exactly what is the kind of decisions that we can take and that we cannot take. And it has 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph is about the people that we serve. And we really need to secure that whatever decision we take with risk is going to improve that service. This is fundamental. Okay? There are also paragraphs for our own employees. Can we do something that is going to help our employees? Has to do with the environment, everything is absolutely there. So when you have a tough decision, a risky decision to make, you go to the Credo and see, does it matches? Actually, all the leadership team is measured every year by every employee. Are you really applying what the Credo is or not? And this is very serious for us. So, give us the compass. And at some point, let me go 5 years ago, not 10, 5. So I was in Johnson & Johnson. We were about to launch a new patient program. I remember my boss telling me, Josemi, this is too risky because if you make a mistake, but the more I saw how much benefit we could give to the patient with this program, because it will mean reducing the time to get the medicine, reduce the cost, we will be able to pay some treatment until the insurance could afford to give that, to reduce the time that they need to just be on the phone in the past to do the stuff, so you can do it electronically or with an app. So it was so massively good that I was okay to take the risk. So the risk has to do with, first, what is the compass of your company? And second, how you as a person feel with the risk that you are taking and the impact that it's going to have.
Awesome. Anything to add?
The thing that I'm thinking about in this conversation is, as leaders, it's really our role to develop teams and high-performing teams that are capable of taking calculated risks. And I think that is, just to round out the conversation with risk and leadership, that's the thing that comes to mind, is ensuring that we're developing, that we're making room and creating the space for others as we develop our teams to, help mitigate those risks, but prepare them to take those calculated risks, because without risk, there really is no innovation. So that's just my thought as I was listening to colleagues.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. We have about 4 or 5 minutes for questions from the audience. I don't see any questions from online. All right.
the topic that I think that you brought up, right? Innovation is contextual. It speaks to the core of you have to, you can't just innovate for the sake of innovation, right? You have to figure out who you're innovating for. Now, working for a risk-averse organization, would love to get some additional tips from you, right? If you've got the vision, you see it, you know this is like the best thing since tamales, okay?
Or pastelón.
Or pastel. Well, we can try we can have a little buffet now. Try it out. Not soon enough. Some other tips on how do you get them closer to your vision to kind of get to buy in, to innovate and buy into that risk?
Yeah, I think you have to be good at marketing, right? You have to be good at drawing that business case. And someone mentioned yesterday the love language, right? It's the business love language. So really understanding what that is, right? And so I think taking stock of the organization the minute you walk in, and again, some people here have been like 20, 30 years at the same company, but you get to move, right? There's upward mobility, there's lateral mobility, and so there's always opportunities to, again, understand where you are. Because even in a very large organization, very much the type that a lot of people here work in, every division is different, right? Every department has a different culture. So really understanding who the decision makers are, right? What motivates them? How does that align to overall strategy? So I'll share kind of one thing that I observed where we are very controlled in terms of not letting anybody in and not letting anybody out. Right, so we have data scientists, right, who try to look at trends in the marketplace, rental prices, fuel prices, all sorts of different things, right, to understand where things are moving. And so, how do you make a business case to enable a platform to allow data scientists to go outside and do screen scraping of the web, right? It's like, how do you do that, right? And so being able to understand that there is a huge business driver, right? And again, I think about business, I'm probably like a complete fish out of water, but it's new, right? It's new for everyone. And so the way I look at it is, what's the business driver? And then how do you make that case to say, we need to invest in this type of technology? And again, we'll apply all of the risk assessments that we need to, the legal assessments, records assessments, all of that, the controls, the security, the permissions, and still enable what these individuals need to do to be able to progress, to be able to inform the American people of this information. So it's really understanding even kind of that small example, but you can apply it to like different things.
If I can add something very quickly, I have like 3 must do. First, legal and compliance are your friends. Invite them for lunch. Have a good conversation with them. This is fundamental. This is fundamental. You really need to understand, their job. If not, nothing's going to work. First thing. The second, pick your projects. Don't be stupid and try to innovate something that is very risky, separate to the company. Pick your project, something that is going to be the next big thing or not, that you really think that can be very, very big. Okay? And last but not least, everyone is okay with a small pilot. Yes. Always start with a small pilot. Don't try to, no, we're going to make this global. What are you talking about? We don't know. Okay, start with a small pilot. If you just click the 3 of them, it's not going to be easy, but you're going to be much more successful.
Awesome. Well, we are out of time. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, panelists, for joining me today. Great discussion.
Let's hear it again for our panelists. So, key action for everyone: have a potluck.